It's something that I've trained in, especially apart from my academic study. I also did some training in suicide intervention and suicide prevention. Yeah.
I see. Alright. Sige. Sige, dito ba sa Philippines?
Yeah.
Marami ba tayong cases or around the world?
Statistics of the Philippines, or at least the suicide rate in the Philippines, it says it's about, and this was in 2016. These are the numbers from 2016 or 2017 pa. But the reported incidence is about, out of total population annually, it's about 5,100 males and 1,800 females. But that's the thing. Globally, it's 800,000 per year. But I feel like it's, you know how you have this whole concept of the iceberg where the things that are showing above water is just pretty much just about 10% or more, a little bit more than just that. And about 80 to 90% of the whole body of the iceberg is underwater or undiscovered. It feels that way.
Because these are the reported cases.
Yes, these are the only reported cases. But there's so many different reasons around why suicides aren't reported or even just talked about in the Philippines. Certain things about, like, for example, the procedure of actually reporting a suicide in certain countries is really complicated. Like, for example, there's it involves a police investigation pa kasi kailangan i-clarify kung walang foul play, etc., etc.
Kasi it could be another reason.
It's very different from if you were to just register it as a death from natural causes.
Right.
So it's still treated that way. And then another thing is, of course, as you might know or as you might be familiar with in the Philippines, there's a stigma around not even just suicide, but just depression or mental illness in general. And I guess that's why we're talking about, or that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're trying to go through some of the myths and misconceptions of mental illness, especially in our culture. But there are certain things like, and trying not to get too controversial here, but factors such as a strong Catholic faith or a strong Catholic presence in the country kind of builds or promotes that culture that frowns upon suicide. That's a whole topic for debate, but you know, it's something worth discussing, I think. And then you know, beyond that, there's also a misunderstanding around suicide or suicidality or even just depression. And people think that depression is not an illness, and it's just something that it's like normal sadness that's blown out of proportion, and that people will just snap out of it.
Yeah. Or napag-usapan din siya parang, I think last year ba, the depression is parang wala lang yan, it's all in the mind. Yung mga ganun ba?
Yeah, it's people seem to think that depression is wala lang or solvable through, you know, ikain lang natin yan or labas tayo or iinom lang natin yan. Pero hindi talaga eh. And then, you know, it's actually in the whole of Southeast Asia, the incidence of depression is highest in the Philippines. It's about 4.5 million. And that's a statistic from 2015 pa, I'm sure.
And again,
cynically thinking also.
Yeah.
Times are a lot more depressing now than in 2015. So, yun, parang dami.
Yeah, oo nga. Tapos yung sinasabi din nila na everyone gets depressed now as they grow older. Yung sinatawag na, midlife crisis, quarter life crisis, and then parang, yung parang, is it, is there an explanation to that, Pat? Na parang bakit, kaya sinasabi nila na parang depression is, it's experienced by everyone throughout the lifetime or as you grow older.
I think the context behind that, or what informs that, is the fact that as you grow older, you have a growing awareness of things. Like if parang, diba, inisip kasi ng mga tao na kids are more innocent because they're not as knowledgeable or they're not as aware of their surroundings or their environments. Whereas where you're an adult, you're more aware of politics. You're more susceptible to stressors. But that's not true. So that's one myth.
Yeah.
Or that's one misconception.
Okay.
It's that even kids, they do get depressed. You know, they have for me kasi, as a psychotherapist, my viewpoint is that each individual's experience is, while it's subjective, it's valid.
Yeah.
I mean, kahit naman bata ka, sure, kung kunwari, relative to you as an adult, tas may bata na nakikita mong nalulungkot because sabihin natin, mababaw lang yung mababaw, quote-unquote, yung kinakalungkutan nila. Like for example, nakipag-break yung crush nila. Wow, crush pala, nakipag-break na. Pero kunwari, stuff like that. But what the person is feeling inside is within himself or herself overwhelming. And that's relative to their capacity. If as adults, our capacity is higher, yung sa mga bata, capacity nila mas mababa. So it reaches that capacity much quicker. Yes.
There's a scale. I remember I read something in the internet before when I was researching on the psychological effects of social media for kids, for students, for the teenagers. I think if I'm not mistaken, please don't quote me on this. There's the youngest reported in the whole world is a 4-year-old girl and somewhere in Europe. Yeah. And she suffers depression because of addiction to social media or to technology. Yung mga games sa, I think, sa mga device, like sa tablets or sa ano. And then, when it was taken away from her or niregulate ng parents niya, doon nag-manifest.
I see.
Siya. So she was clinically diagnosed
with addiction.
And then depressed na raw yung bata.
Because
and then marami pang manifestations of other mental illnesses. Ganun.
Sure. With regard to social media, I think okay. And this is, I guess, in the advent, no, not the advent, I guess in relation to bullying now. We had it, you and I, we had it easy as kids. And if you were ever bullied or if I was ever bullied, the people who are in our generation and older than us had it easy in terms of bullying. Kasi, for example, if it's a school bullying issue, all they get the bullying, their dose of bullying in school. Yeah. And then, after classes are over, you get to go home to your family in your comfort, safe haven. So, diba, parang easy. You have it easy. But then, for the kids now, because of, I'm not blaming technology. Technology is a wonderful thing. It's a tool, more or less. But because of technology, they already get bullied in school, face to face. When they get home, there's no respite. They have Facebook Messenger. They can see the feeds of the people bullying them, posting a shameful picture of them, and it never ends. So that's, in my sense, that's me illustrating to the people watching today or to the people listening into the radio that it's that kids as early as school-aged kids who already have access to social media or who have access to technology, they are susceptible to stress and depression and anxiety at an early age.
So which explains the misconception that it's part of growing up and then they do not experience being depressed. How about this one? Depression is a character flaw and people should just snap out of it. Let's take a long pause and think about that.
I wanna explain something. Yeah. It's okay. For every mental illness, mental health in general is derived from three separate things or three separate aspects which are not mutually exclusive to each other. So the first one is that mental health is biological. So people at home, take note. So this addresses the fact that that people say it's a character flaw. So mental health is biological primarily, or at least as an aspect of it. There are things like neurochemicals or hormones or things that contribute to the way you express yourself or how your mood is. So for example, if you have, and we've covered this in one of our previous shows when we had stress. So cortisol is a stress hormone. And stress, as you might know, too much stress suppresses your immune system. But there's also a neurochemical called, I forget, it escapes me right now what it's called, but there is a stress hormone, or there's a hormone that regulates your mood.
Okay.
And if you have too much of this, or if you have an imbalance of a specific neurochemical, you are more prone. I'm not saying it's it's indicative of depression, but you are more prone to lower moods. So that's one thing. The second thing is, so that biological is one, psychological is another one. So for example, if you have if you don't have a resilient personality, or if your resilience level, if you were to gauge it in a bar, is low, then you're more receptive to you're more sensitive to stressors or to things that can overwhelm you. So that's the second thing. So biological, psychological. The last thing is sociological or social. So this one is regarding your environment. So if you're in an environment where you're stressed out all the time, or for example, if you're in a school that bullies you all day long, whether or not you have a psychological imbalance, or if you have a neurological imbalance, or if you have a resilient personality, if people keep breaking down at you, or if people keep breaking you down, then of course you're gonna get depressed, right? So this three things I just mentioned is called the biopsychosocial model. It's a mouthful, but it's
so lahat ay nagko-contribute.
Yes, all of those things contribute.
In all of the mental concerns of the person. So, ibig sabihin, hindi lang siya pag sinabi mong you have a mental problem. It's not just purely psychological. Because there are a lot of factors really contributing to it.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, kayo naman, for the people listening in who are at work, if you have a boss who is kind of like, in your case, my boss is wonderful. But if you have a boss who is like the devil to you, are you not gonna be stressed, or are you not gonna be, depressed about it? Or, diba? I mean, I can't go into the the details of your biology right now, but of course that also has a factor. Everything really meshes in together like clockwork.
So it's not a character flaw.
It's not a character flaw. Absolutely not.
And sabi nila, you just step out of it or get over it.
It's not easy.
Not easy. How about ito? Naging uso to sa media na like sa mga films.
Right.
Di ba pagka biglang may nagwawala, like say there's a scene, tapos magwawala si ate girl siya, tapos papasok yung mga men in white, and then they have this stray jacket, and it somehow gives us the impression that these people are violent, they're mad, they're dangerous, or ito I guess babalilin mo tong term na to, that they are crazy, they're baliw, ganyan.
Okay. So that's I hate how and medyo strong word, pero I really hate how some avenues of the media have kind of portrayed mental illness in their mediums, like especially in the news nowadays. And this is another longer discussion, but for the people at home, it's unethical to detail or put details of a person's suicide on the news, because number one, it's private. Number two, there's this phenomenon of copycatting, especially if a person is famous, and there are people who follow these people. It kind of raises the incidence or risk of suicide. But either way, for the people, or for the person going crazy and the woman in white, the men in white, men in black. Thing is, if you're depressed, some part of the symptoms of depression is being reclusive, and psychomotor. So politically correct word, psychomotor retardation.
Okay.
Which
explain.
In simpler terms means they don't do anything.
Okay.
Psychomotor meaning motor, like movement. Psychomotor retardation, slowing down retardation. So if they're not moving, or if they're not really doing anything, and they're lazy, or they're staying inside their rooms, how can they go crazy? How can they be violent? And the thing is also, I think part of their portrayal kasi, so that's the people who are going crazy aren't the depressed people. Sometimes in movies or in the television shows, what they show as crazy are the schizophrenics. But did you know that about 99
Yeah.
0.97% of people with schizophrenia, the people who hear voices, do not commit a violent crime in their entire life.
Okay, let's go back to
Sure.
schizophrenia.
Yeah.
What is this? What is this condition? Could you explain?
Schizophrenia is the mental disorder which is characterized by auditory hallucinations. So often the people who hear voices in their head, that's schizophrenia.
Right.
And which causes a lot of different, or which is part of a whole slew of symptoms also.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have another.
Yeah, we'll have another episode to discuss
more
that.
about it. Yeah.
That's yun yung nila, yun yung pinapakita nila. People who are violent are not the people who are depressed. Of course, yes, there are mental disorders that kind of, make you more aggressive or not make you, it's not the disorder that makes you aggressive. It's it's part of the symptomology of the disorder.
Yes.
But like I said, it's biopsychosocial, so it's different things. But it's not the disorder itself. It's not depression that makes you violent. Just to clarify that.
So it's not depression.
It's not depression.
That makes you violent. And then yung triggers niya. Do you have
triggers?
Tama yung term na triggers.
Sure. Triggers
for yung bakit siya naging violent in the eyes of sa media, sa movies, sa television, parang they tend to, for the lack of a better term, exaggerate, sensationalize.
It's not the depression, or it's not the depressed, or people who diagnosed with depression who are the violent ones. If they are depressed or they have depressive symptoms, it's usually in conjunction with another mental disorder. Whether it's different kinds of, there's a spectrum to bipolar disorder. So there are part of the manic symptoms or part of the manic episodes of bipolar disorder may not always have violent tendencies, and those are just tendencies. Other things for example, there's this other personality disorder called borderline personality disorder, and this one is characterized by intense relationships and violent fits or aggressive fits. So that's part of it, and part of borderline also has some aspect of depressive symptoms. So that's the thing about mental illnesses or mental health. Sometimes
so it's not just
they
one
coincide.
thing.
It's not just one thing.
Pag sinabi mo if you're depressed, yun lang. Yun siya. And then I also don't like it when the mental illness defines the person.
Right.
Na parang yung sa tamang stigma.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we need to do also as a culture, not just not just you and me, or not just some people in a specific organization. It's everybody. It's the entire Philippines, even the entire world. They need to change that culture of labeling in general, not just people with mental illness, but just putting labels on people.
Yeah, it doesn't help talaga,
It doesn't help.
especially here as a school setting or sa work setting. This one myth or misconception that those people with mental illness shouldn't work because they will drag people down or they cannot manage stress.
Right. Okay. On a personal note,
all right,
I have had people, so because of the recent news of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade's suicides, they've kind of come out with their own mental problems or mental illnesses. And these are not people who are just, seeking attention, or not just people who are trying to, get people to sympathize or give them a vote of pity or whatever. But these people have been diagnosed with anxiety disorder or major depression or even bipolar. And these are people who are in high positions or high ranking positions in their companies. So it's not true that they can't work. I mean, it's the same thing as... Okay, sorry, not the same thing, but I would liken it to an illness.
Okay.
Yes, there are some illnesses that disable you. So for example, if you have a fever, because of muscle fatigue, you won't be able to physically, literally move. But mental illness is different. It's disabling in different ways, but it doesn't incapacitate a person to think or to function. I mean, yes, it can get severe. or they can have severe episodes, but it's not on a weekly or monthly basis.
Alright.
Sometimes their episodes last for 2 hours or a day, and they'll have to take the day off, which is fine. People take days off anyway.
Hindi siya yung tipong kunyari every day
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock.
Some of the most high functioning people I know are people who have been diagnosed with mental illness, and they're fine. They're still functioning. It's just that they have a diagnosis.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going back to into the whole label thing, right? It's just one aspect of them, of their, identity. It's not their whole identity, it's just one part.
So please do not define these.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't judge. Right? Diba? Kasi tendency is they're being judged or they're being frowned upon or yung iba hindi na lang pinapansin.
Yeah.
Kasi hindi nila alam siguro how to deal with it. Diba? Sorry, I'd like to go back to when you say that about the mental illness. No? So like any kind of illness.
Yeah.
Is it curable, treatable? How what's the correct or politically correct term for
in terms of mental illness?
Right.
There are some mental illnesses that kind of they're enduring, quote unquote.
Okay.
In the sense that it's a condition in a similar fashion to hypertension or diabetes. It'll take a long time for it. I mean, mental illness won't kill you in general, unlike how diabetes or hypertension could. But in the same time, it's similar to those things in the sense that it's a long-lasting condition, but it can be managed. And there are several ways to manage mental illness.
Okay.
So for one thing, the quickest and easiest way to manage mental illness, things such as like depression or anxiety, is through medication.
Okay.
Similar to how hypertension and diabetes is managed through medication.
Yeah.
I mean, largely it's a lifestyle thing for sure. Like there are many different things. Like we talked about exercise in our last episode, which helps helps improve your mental health.
Yes.
But in general, the medications also help. That's a whole other discussion again, because of people have this stigma that it's addictive or that there are major side effects or that there's dependence and whatever. But in general, if your psychiatrist is good, like a well-trained psychiatrist will diagnose or will prescribe you medicines that have the most minimal side effects or no side effects at all, because it's not all meds that give you side effects. There's also, and it's not going to be addictive. It's just maintenance meds. Absolutely.
For your body
and the thing is, for people who have already been prescribed, and I'm talking to the people listening at home, for people who have been prescribed with maintenance meds for their mental illness, if they experience side effects, they need to tell their psychiatrist.
And I think most important is don't self-diagnose.
Also, absolutely.
Seek the help of a professional. Na parang, of course, I'm sure that these medications are not over the counter. You need to have
you need a script,
a prescription for it from a psychiatrist. Right? These are the people who really studied, diba? And who really know, they're professionals. Diba? All right.
So that's it. So first one is medication. The second thing is, or should have come first, but lifestyle. So I mentioned meds first because it's the easiest. The second thing is lifestyle. That's, you can help. Okay, that's the thing about depression, for example. Depression is a mood disorder.
Okay.
You have feelings.
Okay. So these are triggered by moods, caused by moods?
Your mood, it can be influenced by external things, but it's also primarily internal. But the thing is, you can't stop yourself from feeling.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Of course.
Okay, so here's another thing, debunking. There are basic emotions. For any of the people listening in right now, or for any of the people watching, I hope you've watched like Inside Out, the movie.
Yes. Sobrang love ko si Joy.
Exactly. And that's the thing about society. People tend to tend to tell us to just feel good. We live in a feel-good society, but there are 9 basic emotions.
Okay, sige.
So part of the basic emotions is joy.
Okay.
There is curiosity, there is love, but there's also anger, there's also shock, there's also guilt, there's also sadness, there's disgust, and there is, I'm missing one, but people tend to think that the first three things that are mentioned are the only good ones. Like there are good emotions and bad emotions, but it's not true. There's no such thing as a good emotion or a bad emotion. It's basic.
They're just emotions.
They're just emotions. People feel things appropriately in different situations. Like for example, you commute, right? Sabihin natin, or let's say that while you're commuting in a jeep, as you take out your wallet, someone snatches it from you and leaves the jeep.
Right.
What are you going to feel? Joy? Love? Are you going to love the snatcher? Diba? So anger, which is commonly described as a negative emotion, is not negative. It's appropriate in certain situations. Same thing as sadness. If you lose somebody you love, like for example, if you lose a pet, how are you gonna feel? Love.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you love your pet, but is it not appropriate to feel also, sadness?
Yeah.
So ganon.
Yes.
So you can't stop yourself from feeling, but you can manage your feelings, or at least you can manage how you react to your feelings. They don't have to dictate how you react to situations.
Yes.
You can feel them, for sure. That's an internal, behavior, or that's an internal experience. But how you express them is also different.
Yes. Meron tayong phone-in question dito from Charlie na birthday. Hi, Charlie.
Sure. Hi, Charlie.
So, can food help elevate emotions or moods? How does it affect this?
Food. I see. Food is, or nutrition is a big aspect of the whole lifestyle component of mental health also.
Yeah.
In the sense that your nutrition helps dictate. Like for example, the vitamins that you take in the same way that vitamin C helps you, helps boost your immune system. Vitamin D helps improve your mood also.
Okay.
So vitamin D is what you get from being outdoors in the sun.
Okay.
So that's not necessarily food, Charlie. I'm sorry, but for example, as I've mentioned, I think in our previous episode,
yes, with the exercise,
with your brain weighs about 2 to 3% of your total body weight, but it consumes 25% of your total energy. So, for example, if you eat junk food, if quarter of the junk, or if 25% of that junk food goes into your brain, then for sure that's going to lower your, or that's going to make you more susceptible to mental health. There was a study in Australia done with about 9,000 participants, so large, population over the course of 12 years that chronicled their fast food or junk food consumption over those 12 years. And they found that people who consumed junk food, fast food, like donuts, burgers, pizza, ganyan. Not gourmet pizza, siguro. I love pizza, so not burning on pizza, guys. Pero people who consumed fast food or junk food on a more consistent basis were 40% more likely to develop mental illness such as depression and anxiety. So yes, absolutely, Charlie. Your nutrition is important. Yes. Those people who consistently consume those had no intake of fruits and vegetables. So you need vitamins, you need your proper nutrition. So listen to your nutritionists, people listening at home. They know their stuff.
They have to, sabi natin last week, diba, we have to take care of our bodies.
Right, absolutely.
Diba? So it really affects us. Okay, so jumping from the misconceptions, or I think ito very important siya sa mga listeners natin, especially those who do not know what to do when, let's say, they have a friend who's been diagnosed with mental health problem or a mental illness. So these are the things that we are discouraged to say or not to say to them, diba? So isa dito, sinasabi it's just a phase. Lilipas din yan. What can you say about it?
For the people experiencing, so this is for the people, you said that this is for the people who want to know what to say to a person. Right?
Yes, oo.
Imagine nyo na lang yung sarili nyo in that situation.
Yeah.
If you're, for example, if you were stuck in the swamp, they're not concerned about how far it is to the end of the swamp. They're concerned about getting out of it. So, kumbaga, they're in their present moment.
Yeah.
And they need to be there in that present moment. They, parang, kunwari sa akin, if I were depressed about, say for example, losing a loved one, whether it's through death or through breakup, I've just lost someone.
Yeah.
For example, I've invested my whole life to this family member and we're so close, and I've just lost them. Kumbaga, I've known them my entire life, about 26 years, 27 years. And I've just lost them, or I just lost them last week. Sasabihin mo sa akin, it's just a phase. This is somebody I've spent 26 years with. Tapos just a phase. It's not appropriate. It's about parang connecting with that person. Not when you say kasi it's just a phase, you'll get over it or it'll be over soon. You're disconnected. You're not there with them. They need people who are there with them.
Yes.
Sometimes you don't even need to say anything. You can just sit down with them and say, I'm here. Period.
Okay.
It's not, you don't have to say it's okay, or it's you'll get over it. I'm just here.
Okay, so that's the thing. How about this one? Kasi going back to Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, naisip ko lang, no? So,
madami nagsasabi
na parang, successful naman siya. Right. Or mukha naman siyang masaya. Or ganon. So, how do you think?
Okay. So, people also have to understand that there are different facets, or there are different aspects to these people's lives. We don't know their full story. They might have been going through something that's not being shown in their public lives, because of course they're famous people and they have public lives, and we see them, do things on the TV, in wherever else. But there are aspects of their lives that are unknown to us, and whether or not they have, again, this is going back to the first thing that you said. It's not about everything else. Kumbaga, it's about what they're in that moment. Sure, yes, all of us have things to be happy about, but when something happens to you and it just overshadows everything else, or it's something that kind of overwhelms you and that it blinds you, then it doesn't matter what's there, because your vision is blocked. And this happens sometimes to us, right? Sometimes we just get so depressed that we forget na, I have family, or I have a partner, I have a boyfriend, I have a girlfriend, not I have a job, I make money, etc., etc., etc. We just forget, or sometimes we lose sight of it. There's a researcher who says that that suicidality or something that determines or can help tell if a person is suicidal is if the problem that they experience is either of three things or all three of these things in conjunction. And it's a simple thing to remember. It's 3 I's. The first one is that it's intolerable. So hindi mo siya matake. It's it's not something you can accept, or it's not something you can deal with. So second one is that it's inescapable. So there's no solution to it. There's no way around it. There's no way out of it. And the third thing is that it's interminable. Interminable meaning there's no end to it. Like it just keeps happening, or it just keeps going. So, and the thing about these three things is that it's subjective. It's not up to you, or it's not up to somebody else to say, that's not intolerable.
Walang chart.
Wala namang chart. Wala namang ruler for tolerance. Or there's no ruler for inescapability, or it's something that you feel. And sometimes when goes over their head. Like kunwari, sabihin ko, I can't get out of it. I can't tolerate it. And it's never ending. Sometimes the only solution that they see is to take their own lives. And sometimes it takes another person who may or may not be rational, or at least will have a more leveled sense of rationality to show them, okay, teka lang. Let's reassess. Okay. I'm not assessing for you, but let's reassess. Is it really intolerable? What have you tried? What haven't you tried? And that's what psychotherapy is for. You know, it's about helping you explore yourself and your options, regardless of the situation, whether it's about depression or whatever.
So you're saying, Pat, suicide is we can prevent it?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
absolutely we can.
So maybe we can share some tips to our listeners how we can prevent or how we can be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Na share lang tayo. Share. Yeah.
First things first is to just listen.
Okay.
And really just listen. Like no judgment, no it's just a face. As in, don't say anything. Just, I'm here, I'm listening. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, that's when you explore the options. When you find that the person doesn't really want to take their lives or doesn't really want to kill themselves. Parang, for example, if they say something along the lines of, I don't really want to kill myself, it's just that this problem is overwhelming. Okay. What would you be doing if this problem wasn't overwhelming? Stuff like that. Okay. It's a whole different training, a training that I offer, by the way. If people want to learn about how to, spot suicidality, because there's a whole range to like symptomology or things that you can observe in a person that is kind of telling of suicide. So that's one. And there's another thing that I can do. So that's just about awareness of suicide. There's another one about preventing suicide, which is also different training. So these are trainings that I've gone through myself. I do trainings now, or I do workshops helping people to understand suicidality and helping understand suicide. And I also do trainings to help people, build skills to intervene in a suicide. Like literally, if you encounter a person on the train tracks and a train is coming, that's the training you attend, because it's different. Yeah.
How about for those people who are experiencing it? Are there telltale signs?
Usually the symptoms of depression are, because suicidality is really just a symptom of depression. It's suicidal. So suicidal thoughts is one aspect of the whole range of depression. So I think for people who want help or who want to know what to do, or at least how want to improve their situations, please see a professional. There's no two ways about it. Yes, you can exercise all you want and you can eat all of the fruits and vegetables in the entire world, but if something is still going on for you, there's nothing wrong with seeking professional help. If you have a fever, you go to a doctor. If you have a legal problem, you go to a lawyer. Or if you want to learn how to build muscles, you go to a fitness instructor. Why is it wrong for you, if you're experiencing a problem mentally, to see a professional who deals with mental problems?
Exactly.
Diba?
Yeah, and I think, Pat, before even that one, maybe I think it's important also to seek your counseling or mind your mental health.
Yeah.
Even if hindi mo pa nararanasan yung severe depression or severe loneliness.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the stigma.
Right.
Na sinasabi na parang, wala naman akong problema, ba't kailangan ako magpatingin?
Sometimes, and this is also another myth or another misconception that I want for us to debunk. Counselors, psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists are not just for the most severe problems on earth. It's not just for the people who hear voices. It's not just for the people who are addicts. It's also for the people who just want to know other options, or who want to explore other options, or at least at the very least who wants to talk to a person who will not judge them, or who wants to have a confidential conversation. Now there are limits, or there are bounds to the confidentiality, and pretty much it's simply just if there's harm to another person or if there's harm to yourself, then we cannot keep that confidential because our priority is to keep somebody safe.
Yes,
But apart from that, it's a professional conversation that is with a person who is trained to help you sort out your problems. Not to give you advice, but to help you sort out your problems by exploring your options.
Sa'yo manggagaling.
Yeah.
Right.
It's always the most powerful realizations and the most powerful lessons always come from inside of you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. There's another question from Charlie.
Sure.
Again. Is it hereditary, Pat?
It's a risk factor.
Okay.
It's not what determines if you're going to have mental illness. Like you can have family who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia or who have had major depression or bipolar disorder or of all of these things. Because like I said, it's partially biological, and biological is something that you inherit from, in terms of genetics.
Yes,
but it's because there are other aspects to it, because there's of psychological or sociological or your environment, then it doesn't necessarily dictate na, okay, if your parent had this, then you're most likely for sure going to have depression also. It's just one of the factors. But yes, Charlie, it's part of it.
Yeah, because I remember before nung guest natin si Sir Gary that they have the genogram. Oh,
yes.
I think to see the family tree of your family history, basically. Right.
And even for them, for Sir Gary, who's part of Loyola School's Office of Guidance and Counseling, they don't use the genogram to say, this person for sure has depression because they had an uncle three times removed had depression. They just it helps them know na parang, okay, I need to be careful with this person, or at least I need to be a little bit more sensitive with the person who is seeing me because of a history. But they are also aware, these people at the guidance and Office of Guidance and Counseling, they're also aware that it's not just their family or it's not just their biology that determines their mental health.
So hindi lang talaga yun. So balik tayo din sa three factors.
The biopsychosocial model.
Biopsychosocial. So it's biology, something that you have in your body physically, psychologically, something that goes on in your thoughts, your feelings, and then we have socially, environment, and the people around you, I guess.
Yes.
So yun nga, going back, Pat, ano pa ba yung pwede natin gawin? What else can we do to advocate, say, mental health?
So this is the thing, for me, this is my thrust, being not just as a psychological professional, but also as a person who works in the mental health field and is an advocate of mental health in general. People need to be aware. People need to learn. The thing is, in light of all of the news of Anthony Bourdain, Avicii, Kate Spade, last year Chester Bennington, ang dami na eh.
Ang dami na.
People have been posting the news articles, people have been sharing status updates, sharing sorrow, but more than that, they've been expressing, or they've been sharing stuff and learning stuff, realizations, lessons about mental health. But that's the thing, is learning about mental health or learning about suicide, how to prevent it, how to stop it. Should it really just come in the wake of a death? Wouldn't it be more useful before? So that's my thrust. For people who don't know, I am I own a page. It's called Psych of Pat. And Psych of Pat is not a money-making page. It's more or less, I mean, it's a funny name, yes, but it's an advocacy. I make no money from it.
Right.
But
so
this
is on Facebook.
This is on Facebook and YouTube. And it's something that I want. It's a thrust that wants to help people to understand mental illness and to become more self-aware, so that it helps them and it helps them help others as well. And it's also for helping people become more understanding of people with mental illness. It's about time that we did something, that we helped out and really made ourselves more knowledgeable or more aware or more educated or learned about mental illness.
Yes,
because the next step from learning about this is doing something, and that's what we're working towards also in the page. If you can see, if people can see the page, it's full of like posts teaching people about mental illness or teaching people about psychological concepts, which helps contribute to their knowledge to become more self-aware and to become more, healthy, mentally healthy.
Mentally healthy.
Yeah.
So siguro later, for those who are tuned in or watching the Facebook Live, later we'll ask Pat to link us up.
Sure, absolutely.
we
no
have
problem.
a continuous learning. And I think it's really important for us to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
So yes, seek help even if you're not experiencing it or if you know people. Sabi nga niya ni Pat, you just be there, just be listen. Don't self-diagnose. I know there are a lot of you mga, how to know if you have depression.
Right.
Take this online quiz.
I hate those Facebook tests. Look, the thing is, yes, you can be there for a person as much as possible, but you're not a professional. It's not your job. If you feel like you can't take it anymore, or if it's too much for you, then encourage that person to seek professional help also. Because, syempre, you can be empathic, but if it's too much for you, you also have to take care of yourself. If you don't, then you're going to be susceptible to depression also. And how's that going to help the person you were initially helping, diba?
Kumbaga, how can you help if you're not also equipped? These offers, these training that you offer, Pat, they are open to all.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, ako sa akin lang, no, absolutely not. These are for civilians, casual employees, paraprofessionals. That's my thrust. Or kumbaga, that's my call to action today. If you know somebody, or if you know an organization or a community or a company or any group specific that would benefit from either psychotherapy, so these are for individuals, or if you know an organization, group, or community or company that would benefit from a mental health training, then they can just as easily message me. Of course, it's not free, but it's not expensive because, like I said, it's just it's my thrust to make the Philippines. Wow, grabe, bayani levels.
Meron na tayong tour, nationwide tour na.
Oh, it's my thrust to help the Philippines become more mentally healthy. I'm tired. I'm not tired of listening to people, but I'm tired of seeing things like people who are judging other people because of mental illness. I'm tired of the media misrepresenting depression, suicide in the media. I'm tired of them showing details of Anthony Bourdain's death or Kate Spade's suicide plan. That's nakaka-trigger. So,
we have a comment here from Carlos Macaspa.
Yeah, hi Carlos. Nice to hear from you.
Carlos, mental illness can be soothed by being
grateful and education. Sad that news only come up when it happens to famous people. Absolutely. Diba? It happens to a whole range of people, not just the famous ones.
Yes.
It happens to our friends, it happens to our relatives, it happens to our partners, our schoolmates, our workmates. It shouldn't. But thank you for that comment, Carlos. It's sad that we only do something when it happens to a famous person.
So, nangyayari tuloy, nagtitrending siya, nagiging uso.
Dahil nagiging flavor of the month lang siya. Hindi dapat ganun. This is
sad.
Yeah, this is supposed to be basic. It's important for us to do something about it. Thank you for all of the people who've been watching. We've had a couple of people join in, and
Charles,
thank you so much for...
babatiin natin from Bright Radio. I was there last Monday.
That's why. Okay.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Ciao.
Hi to Charles, to Francis, to Joni, Trisha, Charlie, John from Melbourne, Julia,
Lizelle,
Tim, Karen, Michael, Dave, Carlos, Lizelle, and Ricky. Thanks for watching in. If you've just come in or if you've watched the show late, we're posting the video up on the Radio Katipunan page. So if you wanna recap or if you wanna watch the whole episode, it's up on Facebook. So
and then we'll ask Patrick also to link us.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
Psych of Pat. Thank you for giving us a lot of insight.
Absolutely.